The NCIS Transnational Crime Unit works with the U.S. Navy and navies of our allies to interdict high-sea shipments of drugs, weapons, combatants, and other resources that fund and facilitate terrorism.
So the Transnational Crime Unit, or TCU, is a unit that's run out of the Middle East Field Office, but it works with both CENTCOM and AFRICOM on smuggling and pirating priorities. And so the real benefit for NCIS is that we get to leverage both our law enforcement capabilities as well as our intelligence capabilities.
The efforts that we are doing each day interdicting these narcotics is fighting terrorism head on. You know, NCIS is the front line. We're out there each and every day. We're working hand in hand with our allies. We're supporting strategic priorities for the United States, and we're supporting strategic priorities for our allies and other countries throughout the globe.
So when we make a seizure, it's not necessarily about the dope that you see laying on the flight deck and the glory picture that we take, you know, posing with all of our narcotics that we seize. It's about the intel value that comes out of that seizure, not just to NCIS, not just to the Australian Royal Navy, but other law enforcement organizations such as our DEA, the Australian Federal Police, the British Royal Navy, the US Navy. There's multiple entities that benefit from that intelligence, and they can all use it to act upon follow-on missions. There's great intel value in the manner in which it's packaged, the stamping that's on each of the packaging.
We're stopping narcotics from getting on the shores, which is stopping narcotics from coming into the military community, from sailors and Marines using narcotics, from even having access to those.
While we're focused primarily on a smuggling mission, many times the personnel who are engaged in that activity also work or have ties to terrorist activity. So by us identifying these networks and these personnel or these areas of movement, we're helping the Navy and DoD at large identify other target sets that they're interested in and potentially can be a threat to U.S. forces.
One key part of the Transnational Crime Unit's mission is to train our partners. We have our partners come to the Bahrain field office area. In that area there is a warehouse where we actually have a dhow set up inside the climate control warehouse. Within that warehouse, the dhow is in there. They can board the dhow, they can do tactical movements on the dhow. We can hide contraband on the dhow deep into underneath for them to be able to search for the items, learn how it is to work in these confined spaces. They can actually drill holes into cavities looking for the stuff using some of the cameras and other tools that we give them in this dhow. So we use this with the Australians, United Kingdom, and any other country that is working with the combined maritime forces has the opportunity to come in and be trained up before they actually go out into the international waters to do patrol.
NCIS help us to refine precisely the areas, to put our units to patrol in order to intercept. And it worked, because where we put our units, we intercepted then dough of interest, and we intercepted smugglers and traffickers.
The Transnational Crime Unit also goes to other countries to conduct training. Recently, they went to Sydney, Australia to conduct training with the Royal Australian Navy before they went underway to come into the AOR. So from there, our agents and analysts went there. They started out in the classroom, trained them on the techniques of boarding, how to find contraband, and then the Australian government has seized a Chinese drug vessel so that they had moored to the pier. And then we were able to actually go out on this vessel that was in bad condition, like a real dhow is, and actually train them on how to look for contraband, how to interview people, how to separate the crew, and these type of things, you know, out in the field.
I'll go walk out on that auxiliary machine room to the edge of it, and I'll just point at someone and do the come here.
Since we trained them in Australia, they were able to practice their skills the entire time they were transiting from Australia to, you know, the AOR, which they gave them several weeks. So this shows us that, you know, by the results of them getting narcotics in each one of the dhows that they stopped, shows that the training paid off, because you can search a dial all day long. If you don't know where to look or how to use the tools that we provide the training on, you will overlook those drugs. I mean, so it's a cat and mouse game. I mean, the drug smugglers are doing their best to hide the narcotics from us, and we are trying to find it. So it depends on who's doing better, the cat or mouse that day. And with the proper training, you know, the cat's winning.
The training in itself and the knowledge from the NCIS agents is, you can't go past that. Like, that training, that knowledge is just huge for our guys.
Essential to its success is our working with foreign partners and our ability to interdict shipments, transoceanic shipments of contraband. I think that the transnational crime may seem a little vague, but when you watch the video and see the actual hands-on kinetic impact of agents and partner military and law enforcement actually bordering these dhows, seeing how the process works, seeing how they do these detailed searches, and all the collaborative training that goes into it in advance to make sure they can be done safely and properly and legally admissibly, it makes a huge difference once you actually see how it's done versus just the vague concept of transnational crime. I think the dividends are evident. I think not only in terms of our engagement strategy and building strong relationships with our existing partners and with partners that we don't have great relationships with yet, it's fantastic. And I think just in terms of the sheer impact it has in terms of interdicting potential future criminal or terrorist acts, but also in cutting the funding streams that go to terrorist and transnational criminal organizations, the impact is yet to be seen, but will be very substantial. Essentially, what's even more important to ensure Navy and Marine Corps readiness is to prevent those narcotics from reaching consumers, sailors, Marines, dependents.
NCIS supports the National Defense Strategy by degrading terrorist access to funds. As stated in the National Security Strategy, the United States must devote greater resources to dismantle transnational criminal organizations and their subsidiary networks. NCIS supports the White House, Attorney General, and State Department in the fight against transnational organized crime, helping to fight against the growing opioid crisis.